Hello everybody, welcome back to Season 4, Division 2, Week 3 recap of the Double Dip League. I am Aurora, coach of the Hoensbroek Hunters, and joining me is...
Firebolt, coach of the Minnesota Magikarps.
Yes, and we are here to recap and look back on the matches that happened in Division 2, Week 3. This is, again, my own division, same as last week, so when we get to my match, which is the first one we'll get to, I'll let Firebolt take most of the commentating as to not give a biased perspective on the match.
Yeah, I want to make sure that, give us some input. I mean, the one thing that you can do is, put us into the mind of what you were doing during the match, just so that we kind of know where you were at. But looking at it, just starting off, so we're be doing the Hoensbroek Hunters versus the Hartford Honchkrows.
Yes, by first. Jason.
And so starting off, you have a lot of flying Pokemon on your team.
Yeah, my team does have a lot of flying types. Jason did not have a lot of flying resists, aside from in this case, the Duralon and the Thunderous, who did not want to stay in on half of my flying types. So. Yeah, the match, it starts out pretty, low-key, and it sort of, gets going, when both the Urshifu and Pheromosa come into play, because it sort of shows the nature of the match, where Urshifu kind of claims life when it comes in. Pheromosa kind of claims life when it comes in. So it's kind of a chess match to get those two out as often as possible for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, like most matches, it kind of starts off with everyone kind of switching in, getting the Pokemon that they want in. You know, they have to get that all set up and everything. So, the Frostmoth goes down pretty soon, pretty quickly, and then it's just kind of like what are you gonna do with Porygon at that point?
Yeah, Porygon, it definitely was a sort of a thorn in the side of most of Jason's team. The Urshifu was there as a very obvious, very instant answer that could just obliterate it immediately.
Right.
But it's of course also a question of it can teleport out if I predict it correctly and just sort of keep advantage on my side.
And I mean, eventually, you get Pheromosa in and put it behind a substitute, and that takes a while to get broken out of.
Mm-hmm. The Pheromosa substitute, it allowed me to scout, because it did allow me to see that the Thunderous, it was Scarfed on his end. I usually expect my opponents to bring at least one Scarfed Pokemon to deal with Pheromosa, because it is just sort of that threatening.
And then, I mean, it's just ridiculous how you're able to, it gets down to the last part of the match, and I mean, Zygarde 10% is ridiculous.
Yeah,
you just spam 1,000 arrows and kill everything.
Yeah, if you look at Jason's team, he did not have a resist for 1,000. He had one resist in Frostmoth for 1,000 arrows, and also Urshifu could take a bunch of Zygarde's hits. But it got hit early on by one of the Zygarde's moves, which first of all immediately informed me roughly how much damage Zygarde was doing to it. And secondly, when I realized it also had Life Orb, I could realize gets Zygarde in the moment Urshifu was low enough that everything would just sort of fall to Zygarde, and it just spam 1,000 arrows because nothing stops it. Because in this case, it is Scarfed. You can see it outspeeding the Thunderous here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was quite a quick wrap of the match. Neither of our teams really built very bulkily, aside from Urshifu on his part, Porygon on my part, and maybe the Frostmoth, but it sort of fell to Pheromosa very quickly.
Yeah, it was kind of a match of who's going to get the first couple KOs needed in order to set up a sweep, which is what you ended up doing. You got all of his resists out of the way, and then was just able to wipe.
Yeah, it very easily also could have gone the other way around because the Thunderous was very scary. Like for my team, Zygarde was sort of the only thing keeping it in check, as well as Porygon to some degree. And had Frostmoth had the opportunity to set up, it would have been very difficult for my team to try and stop it.
But in the end, Thousand Arrows killed everything.
Yeah, Thousand Arrows just kind of ran through everything, and that sort of just wraps up the whole match. There isn't a whole lot more to say after that.
So I think we can go ahead and move on to the second match of the week, which was
that was the Southtown Spoot of the Southtown Sandslashers fighting Nick of the Loafville Lanturns, White Loaf.
Yep. And they also have a Zygarde on the team.
Yeah, Nick has Zygarde the full form, the 50% form, I mean. And this match, if the previous match ended with just a sweep once all resistances were taken care of, this match ends up finishing even quicker. Very unfortunately for Nick.
Well, because you had to get rid of the resistances on the other team, whereas unfortunately for Nick didn't have any resistances.
It wasn't even necessarily that he didn't have the resistances. It was more so that it was on Spoot to sort of find the opportunity to set up Porygon Z and just take lives from there, because once it does, it's immediately over. Which is what we're about to watch happen here.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of switching out at the very beginning. Melmetal takes a hit and gives a hit to Zygarde, which again is spamming 1,000 needles, but 1,000 arrows, but it's not doing nearly as much damage to Spoot's Pokemon.
Yeah, Metal has 145 something-ish HP and 100 plus something defense, so there's not a lot that can even want to take it. But
then Nick stays in on a sleeping Pokemon versus Porygon, and Porygon is just able to set up from there on.
Yeah, Porygon, it comes in, it gets its ability download off, and because Vikavolt special defense is lower than its physical defense, Porygon gets a special attack boost. It just sets up a single agility in order to outspeed Nick's entire team. And from there, it just literally wipes 6-0. So where Porygon 2 was walling all of Nick's team in his previous match last week, Porygon now decides to take matters into its own hands and just wipe the floor with them.
And to be fair, the Aerodactyl gets off an Earthquake and hurts Porygon, but it's not enough.
Yeah, Aerodactyl does what it can. Zygarde gets off an E-Speed on it. It does, Nick does what damage he can to it, but sadly, he's just not able to land that finishing blow on it. And it just keeps taking lives.
You find yourself in a position, and usually when I'm team building, it's the reason that I try to find. I've got several resistances for a certain Pokemon, or several counters, so that if one goes down, or if it starts setting up, I have something that can be put in there to get rid of it.
Yeah, but I think the problem that Nick is running into here is that Spoot's team, it has Pinkerton, which sets up electric terrain, and it also contains Raichu, which he has been using consistently in order to put a lot of opposing teams just into the ground as well. So I have a feeling Nick was more prepared for Raichu trying to sweep than for Porygon trying to sweep.
Yeah, and I mean the Pinkerton didn't even come in on this match.
Yeah, it didn't even need to. It's also a question, Porygon 2, because it's a normal type, its coverage is just sort of like really good. It doesn't need to run a lot more than Tri-Attack and Dark Pulse, I think, are the only things it uses outside of Agility. But he could have easily run Ice Beam for Zygarde, he could have easily run like Shadow Ball or something else for Blacephalon, or like whatever coverage he needed, he could have just ran on it. And like Nick's team just falls 6-0 to it, because honestly, like, there aren't many answers to be had. Like, I guess like a Pokemon like with an Assault Vest, like a bulky Pokemon with an Assault Vest, could have tried to take care of it. Maybe if the what's it called, Bronzong was able to get up an Gyro Ball against it with its speed boost, might have been able to knock it out, or at least put it in range of Aerodactyl. But sadly, the reality we live in is that that didn't happen, and Spoot ended up winning 6-0 over Nick.
Yeah, kind of just a slaughter for this one.
Yeah, Nick's team does not enjoy taking hits, but let's not dwell on this for too long. There isn't a lot to be said about just getting swept. And move on to the next match, which took place between the Heerlen Hawluchas, Poopman, and the Slinging Aegislashers, coached by Krabbys.
Yeah. So in this case, I mean, you can just look at Krabbys' team and note the just overwhelmingly water types. Definitely a rain team.
Yeah, you see the Pelipper there, you see the Barraskewda there, even the Seismitoad is able to run Swift Swim. He likes to bring them all. It is like a very difficult thing to like work with if like your team is like outsped by things that are able to hit quite hard. And the match actually gets off to a flying start as we see this Gyarados just throw out all the coverage moves, just going straight for Thunder on the Pelipper, and revealing Power Whip on the Seismitoad.
And Seismitoad was just barely able to hold on with the
berry.
Yep, with the berry, yep.
Yeah. Also, very interestingly, one thing that Spookman did not know or not realize is his Gyarados was outspeeding Seismitoad, which he could have used to deduce that it wasn't a Swift Swim Seismitoad. Its only other ability is Water Absorb, so had Krabbys not switched out to Heatran there, he would have actually healed Seismitoad and taken another hit.
Not Heatran, though.
No, sorry, Rotom Heat.
Rotom Heat, yeah. But no, finally, Moltres comes out, and this is the Alolan Moltres.
Galar Moltres, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. It's Galar, yeah, and it just goes crazy. Gets, what was it, 4 kills?
4 or 5, I think. It's mostly on account of Krabbys' team not having much in the form of especially defensive Pokemon. It's most of Superman's team are physical attackers. Moltres is his strongest special attack, and it is only base 100, so it's not that strong, and you don't need to prepare for it that hard. But it does, its ability, Berserk, I believe, does raise its special attack once it's dropped below half HP, which we do see happen.
Yes, yeah. And it had a couple of things, like it was raining, so it was able to use Hurricane pretty consistently, which, it hurt a lot.
Yeah, you definitely see like a lot of Krabbys' team just taking a lot of damage from the. It's not even Dark Pulse. What is it called?
It's the Fiery Wrath.
Fiery Wrath. Its signature move. It's literally just a 10% base power better Dark Pulse.
Right.
Yeah, it just sort of like runs through a lot of Krabbys team, ends up costing him too many Pokemon to the point where he just does not have the switch-ins that he needs anymore. Because Aegislash would have been able to take on Bulu, but it died.
Yeah, and I mean, like, so the Seismitoad comes back out and is finally able to take down Moltres with a Surf, but at that point in time, it's got 1 health left, 1%.
I feel it's another match that sort of shows Krabbal is not the most experienced player yet. I feel if he had sort of run calculations with his team, he could have realized beforehand which Pokemon could survive, which ones could not, and could sort of like damage it back and get into a situation where the Moltres at least would have either switched out or not kept killing all of his Pokemon. But he ends up just kind of throwing away too many things, and you know that ends up costing him the game, as he doesn't have the switch-ins he needs anymore.
And I want to mention, this is the fastest match that we've gone over so far.
Yeah, I mean, all the matches have been fast. I know the match with me
there's
was...
been a sweep. There's been a sweep for everyone. Everyone found that one Pokemon that just kind of went crazy.
Yeah, it was a 20-turn game, then a 19-turn game, and now we have a 13-turn game. But yeah, Spookman ends up taking it 4-0 over Cabral. Cabral's Rain team falling short once again. It could, like, I feel, even though it is 4-0, I feel it is actually a lot closer than it looks. Mostly due to like both Crocodile and Hawlucha literally would have just died to a Barraskewda in the rain, not able to do anything about it.
Yeah, it really just needed a counter to Tapu Bulu, because, you know, water wouldn't do much to it, so it's a question of countering that.
Yeah, it does get Ice Fang. I don't know if it also gets Poison Jab. I am going to check that really fast. It does. It does. Okay. So yeah, it does actually get the coverage it needs to take care of Bolo. So even it would have not have been able to switch in.
Rotom Heat might have.
Rotom Heat's on his team.
Hmm?
The Barraskewda gets Poison Jabs, which it could have used to take care of the Bolo, assuming it has enough power behind it to knock it out. Which only like really leaves like the Moltres and the Araquanids to sort of wall the Barraskewda and not allow it to sweep. Which it only was the Araquanid at the end, but sadly by that point Barraskewda was dead. Cabral's team got swept and Bulu cleaned up.
Yeah.
I think that does it for this match. So let us move on to the last match if you want to introduce our last 2 contestants.
Well, the last match for the week is going to be the Nevada Ninetales, coached by Skittles, versus the Kansas City Krabbys, coached by Remedy.
Yes, and this match, Skittles' team, it's so bulky. It is built to just take hits and hits and hits. And then Remedy's team, on the other end, like Heatran is like sort of bulky, but it is designed to just deal out the hits and hits and hits that Skittles are going to be trying to live. So as we get into the match here.
So right off the bat, not a great matchup. Suicune versus Heatran. So there's like an attempt to set up, and then because Circuitry comes out, like they had to switch, which was unfortunate. But they bring out Entei, and Entei gets into quite a few good hits while Remedy switches out, and the King just starts to set up.
Yeah, one thing you sort of like see, and it is something we actually have seen earlier this match with the Reggie Iton's food team, is that people are like just trying to set up at weird times, even though like they know like their counters and checks are still in the back. So like they just like sort of spend a turn either like rock polishing or calm minding, even though like what's it called? Suicune like really doesn't have a business calm minding while Circuitry is still alive, because Circuitry is going to come in and blow it apart even at +2, just because Circuitry has like base like I think 181 base special attack.
Well, and it didn't super matter anyway, because I mean, even with that, like it wouldn't have been able to do damage to Circuitry really.
I mean, we do see it actually hit like decently hard. Circuitry isn't the most bulky Pokemon in the world, but we do see that like even through light screen, it just deals so much damage, and like skills just seem like even though it is a bunch of things, they just can't take hits like that. If it was
so eventually, Cresselia was able to come out and put up screens as well, which it didn't seem to help too much, honestly.
I feel it did help somewhat. Like I feel the Mimikyu definitely would have gone in a lot harder if it wasn't for the Reflect being up earlier. Sort of kept it from dealing even more damage to everything. Like Rodriguez was able to survive a bunch of hits. Suicune was able to survive against it and eventually get rid of it. But like once like Suicune is gone, once Rodriguez is gone, that's like 2 of the 3 like main defensive parts of Skills' team. So he's just not able to like switch in the stuff that he needs to anymore. Like the Heatran like goes completely unresisted, doesn't have a lot to wants to take hits. And Magma Storm, it's base 100 power, so it's going to be dealing lots of damage.
Yeah, and so the screens finally go down. Creselia's able to come back out and put up one more. Able to put up a light screen, but not a reflect before it gets taken down.
Yeah, and also we see sort of like a bunch of interesting moves being thrown out by Skills, as like I think the Braviary, if it did have like some kind of, I think it gets Facade, I'm not entirely sure on that one, but like some kind of like normal stab definitely would have knocked out this Toxtricity and at least saved some differential. Might have even been able to win all the way if it was able to close combat, like if it wasn't choice, and which it wasn't. It's heavy duty boots because it doesn't take damage when it switches in from the rocks. So it might have been able to like if it did have some way of knocking out this Toxtricity, it could have close combated Heatran and probably used some kind of flying type move on Heracross and one skill. So again, this one. It is 3-0. It doesn't look too close, but I feel it is a lot closer than it is, or than it looks.
Well, I mean, at the very end of the match, we had the Heracross, which I mean didn't take any damage or anything like that, but the Toxtricity was at 36%, and the Heatran was only at 3.
Yeah, like literally any move would have knocked it out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And so if that Braviary was able to overcome the Toxtricity, I mean, you're looking at Heatran's going out to that, and Heracross is weak to flying as well. So it could have been very different.
It could have been different. It almost was. It also kind of depends. Heracross does at max speed outspeed a max speed Braviary, so it also sort of depends on like if they ran Adamant, if they ran Jolly. Not something we know, sadly, but it definitely could have gone Skills' favor. I still feel that they both played well. I feel like the screens I feel did hinder Remedy's game plan a lot. It's just that Skills' team didn't take enough advantage of them. It was sort of like delaying the inevitable rather than allowing Skittles to get some sort of setup of his own going that was able to sweep back. So in the end, Remedy takes it 3-0 over Skittles. Could have been closer. A lot of close. Well, no, we had 3 sweeps and this one close match then. So
yeah,
interesting week.
Yeah, this was at least one of those ones where it wasn't too much in either person's favor. It was pretty equal, and you like seeing close matchups like this and seeing which way they go.
Yeah, where like sort of like little plays, little reads are able to make the difference rather than just like a Pokemon setting up and the opponent is not having an answer for it. But we did learn a very important lesson this week of being like, even at team building, if you are able to like identify your win condition and are able to like play around it, like, and have like a good game plan going into a game rather than sort of trying to figure out how to win as you go, is I feel did definitely help the people that ended up with sweeps this week.
Yeah,
I feel that does it for the recap of Week 3, Division 2, Season 4 of the Double Dip League. Thank you all for joining. We, of course, wish you best of luck in future matches. We hope that, like, we try to bring things like as constructively as possible rather than just talking down on the person. See you next time.
See ya.